Hey, it's Stacy with So Steady, and I am here live today with Donelle McAdams. So excited to be sharing with everyone our first official Elevate Club class kit class. So, this is going to go through, and we're going to be taking the class kit that is part of our Elevate Ruler Club boxes. And Donella is going to be teaching you how to quilt out that design with the instruction that's included in the box, with the templates that are included in the box, as well as how to turn that panel into a fun little bag that you can store some of your tools and your rulers and all that jazz in. So I'm super excited for this class today, Donnell. I think this is going to be really, really fun to be able to show them how they can do something more with that practice panel and maybe create some great ways to store their tools.
Yeah, and it's perfect size to store your
crosshair square.
Yeah, that's the word I'm going for. I'm looking right at it and I can't even think of the word.
I completely, sometimes coffee does that to me, but yes, I'm right there with you. All right. Well, we're super excited. I'm going to let you take it away. I'll be monitoring questions and jumping in and out to be able to help answer some of those and have you help with that. But let's go ahead and get started. Thank you. And then just as one note, sorry, I wanted to make sure if you're not a So City Club member, do not worry because you can actually get this class kit outside of that club. So we have both the option to be able to purchase just the class kit if you already have these rulers. And Donnell's going to show you some alternative rulers to use today. If you don't have that one, there's some options even built into the class kit as well. But I'm going to post a link to the class kit. So if you want to go ahead and just take advantage of the pattern and the practice panel, be able to do this at home, you can do that. If you're not already an Elevate Club member and haven't gotten that panel yet, then this is your other option. So, all right. Now take it away, Donnell.
All righty. Well, in your Elevate box, you got this handout, and this is the instructions. And I can tell you, you can follow the instructions, but it's always easier when you see somebody else do it. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to take you through that. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll just tell you, these are two of my favorite templates, the ones that do this inside, and it's so easy and it's so quick, and it's one that you're going to find that you're going to use a lot. So this is my finished one, and as far as information, mine finished at 14.5-inch square. So the way I'm instructing you, this is what you're headed for. I actually cut my fabric, this piece here in the center, I cut it 1 inch larger than where it finishes on the log cabin part. So you may not have a complete inch on all sides, not to worry, because you're not going to have a whole inch showing here anyway. But that's what I started with, because as you know, the panel has a piece on the other end that ends up getting cut off. This was down here on this end. I just used it for my notes to tell me what I was doing. And I'm using fusible fleece. So I've got mine set up here. So you can see that this overrides a little bit into this white. That's fine. So this is the end, and that is 1 inch out. Now on one side, I don't think you had quite the inch, but like I said, it's not going to matter. So I cut that, and then I cut my fleece 15 inches square. So I've got extra out here. And the reason for that is because I want to be able to turn my binding when I'm finished and have this a little bit larger than just this piece right here. So that's going to allow me to finish this up at 14.5 inches. So once you've got that all together, I'm a spray girl, so I sprayed this. I have sprayed my front with a spray starch of some kind because I want to make sure that any marks I make, I think I'm going to use all iron off chalk, so it really wouldn't have mattered. But if I decide to use any of my Frixon markers for any kind of marking, the fine line Frixon markers will come off if I have sprayed this with starch. So I have sprayed this with, I use Starch Savvy by June Taylor. And I sprayed it once and pressed it, sprayed it again and pressed it. That gives this a nice crisp finish, but it'll also allow these markers to iron off. So once we've got this prepped, my background, I failed to tell you, is a 20-inch square, my backing. And I used a fun. It just jumped right out at me as what I needed for this fabric. And it is a batik. And so that's what I used. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our 8-point crosshair square. Now I have the 12-inch, so I'm going to go ahead and use the 12-inch. And that way I won't have to extend any of my lines. So I'm putting it right there in the center. And I'm going to go ahead. I really don't need to mark these lines because they're already there. So in this case, I'm just coming right down the center. And as we get into this and get more familiar, you probably wouldn't even need to mark those because they go right through the center of those log cabins. So let me get around the camera here so I can see to mark this one, and the same with this one. Now, in the case of this design, we need more lines. So I'm going to rotate this so that we can get all of those lines marked to begin with. So I've got that lined up. So I'm going to mark these again. And this time it will be all 8 of them. So we essentially have 16 lines marked there. I didn't mark those 4 because I really don't need to. So I'm going to set my crosshair aside. Whoops, sorry about that. And we will be starting here in the middle. So let's get you positioned so you can see that. I don't like to put my thumbtack up through the fabric, so I have used tape. I like to use the RNK embroidery perfection tape. My thumbtack goes through the side that is the sticky side. You can see it sticking to my finger. And then I'm just going to put it down right dead center. Now, don't just take your eyesight from one direction. Check the other and make sure you've got it in the center. Now, I'm using some spicy orange thread, and it really is a nice, bright, fun thread. And because I want it to look nice on the back also, I'm using the same thread on the back. Now, it is a rayon thread. Let me see. Maybe not. Nope, it's a polyester, which is fine. Perfect. And I am getting out that template that's your Spinning Wheels 14 that came in your kit. Now, we are going to put that on that pen or that thumbtack. And I'm going to start right over here on this side. We're going to bring our thread up at A. You can start on any line you want. I put my foot down first. I better make sure I've set it for ruler work. And I'm coming right into the A, and you can see it just kind of falls into place there. And I'm going to go ahead and put my needle down and up, pull up my bobbin thread by flossing underneath there. Now, that didn't get it because it was very, very short. So I'm going to take my tweezers and pull that thread out. So I'm putting my foot back down, again, just a little ways away from my template because I don't like to put the foot down right beside the template. You can always bring it back to position. I'm going to pull this thread out of the way. I'm looking back here to make sure it's straight. Now, I know you can't see it, but I can, that are straight on that line, and I'm putting my needle back down. Now, check to make sure you got everything. I always actually stitch ahead of time, and I've already done that to make sure I've got everything ready to go. I have stable tape on my templates, and I'm going to the left, and I'm going to stop at B. Now, I don't need all of these long threads here, so I'm going to cut that off and leave about 6 to 8 inches until I can actually tie that. Now, I'm shifting to the next line, and it be the one that is straight up that I actually did not mark, but my template won't let me go any farther, so I know it's the right one. And you're going to do all 16 lines. And it's such a pretty little spiral. And it's so easy to do because of the fact that it just kind of feels right into the spot where you're going to stop. Now here we're back down to, I'm going to say 3 o'clock because there's no marking there. And you can decide, if you're new at this, you're probably going to start rotating this rather than just continuing around like I'm doing here. You may decide, I want to rotate this back up this way. That's perfectly fine. It's not going to change anything. Just make sure when you decide to rotate that your needle stays in that fabric. Always give your needle time to seat itself so that you have a nice point where you're stopping and starting, like right there. Now, just so I don't get out of your vision, I'm going to rotate back up there a little bit. Always making sure that my threads are out of the way because I don't want to stitch over them. And look at that. Before you know it, you're back to start. So I've got one more here. My thread's out of the way, so when I come back to where I was, I can go ahead and lift that thread, lift my foot, pull away, and come right back to that same spot. And then I'm going to use all 4 of those threads to tie off. So I'm lifting that thread, and this time when I pull away, I'm getting my bobbin thread up. So this thread right here, whichever one is moving, is the one you want to cut. And since they're all the same color, make sure you got the right one. And then you want to cut your needle thread. So I'm going to pull this away. I'm going to leave that thumbtack there because now I've got all 4 of my threads. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them so that they're about 6 to 8 inches long. I'm going to make a loop by flipping those fingers around and pulling the tails through, but don't pull it down tight because what we want to do, I use a side threading needle. I'm taking the point through the loop and right back to that spot, and I'm pulling it down because I'm in control of where the knot's made, and I don't want it right on the surface of the fabric. I want it a little bit away, and it's right there. Why? Because I want to actually bury these threads, and I want that not buried. So I've got my threads in there. I'm going to go right back in that same spot, get down in my batting, pull that through. And when I do, I'm going to go slow for this time. I pull my tails, there's my knot, and now it's gone. So the knot went in underneath and it's about right there. I cinched this up a little bit and cut that thread, and that will take those tails and bury them. And so you really, when you look at that, will not be able to find where that knot is. And look at that, just that quickly, we have done that center. So I hope you can see how much fun that would be to do. And that is a 6-inch design. It finishes 6-inch wide. We're going to actually add more to it with the other template. So what we're going to be doing is using those very same lines, putting it on that center spot, lining up, and we will be putting the needle's going to start here, so it will be over that piece right there. So in other words, you can see that stitching right there, and the needle is going to be on either side of that. So let's go ahead and get started with that one. It's done pretty much the same way. So we're going to take that needle down and up, and this time my thread will be long enough to pull out without even using tweezers, because of the fact that I cut that thread long after my stitching. Now, if you're looking at your instructions, we would be actually on step 2 and doing the design that's on that page there. All right, so I've got it lined up. I'm going to put that foot down away from my template, line up back here, and bring it into A. I think you can see the A right there. You'll notice I've got some extra. I've got 6 or 7 different spots that I have my stable tape on. Don't just rely on just a few pieces. So here we go. Stopping at B, and you'll feel it. Go to the next line, which in this case, I love it that they've got the lines down here, because out there my line is not extended that far. I'm going to move it to the next line, which seems like it's a lot farther, and it's only because we're at a bigger design. And again, having my Sew Steady table is so nice to have this big surface to work on so that nothing is catching or in the way. Let's see. Yep, right here is where we're lined up. Now, of course, you can combine these designs, or you could just use the one that I'm doing right now, and in the center do something else, or maybe even have an embroidery in the center that you were kind of putting something out around it just to enhance it, because obviously there's a lot of opportunity for any kind of creative embellishment. I just think clear back to when I first started this, and I thought I would never, ever be able to do anything like this. And I want to encourage all of you that are just getting started in this. It is so much fun, so relaxing. The opportunities are endless. Stay with it, practice, but don't be too critical on yourself. For those of you that maybe are just getting started, one of the best tricks I can share with you is to set your foot control on the floor backwards so the high side is nearest you, and set your speed on your machine to medium. And then all you're going to do is floor it. You hear my speed is very consistent. That's not because I have good control of how much I press on my foot pedal. That's because I'm pressing it to the floor each time, because I have turned that foot control around and gone to a medium speed. Now here we are back at the beginning, just that fast. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to raise my needle, raise my foot, pull away, and come back. Put that right back down in that same spot. Raise my needle again, and this time when I pull away, that is my bobbin thread. The side that's still moving, which in this case is this one, is the one I cut, as well as my needle thread. Take that template off, and all you have left are your 4 threads, 2 that you began with and 2 that you ended with. And then we're going to do the same thing, flip it around, pull that thread through, put that needle through, and pull down, but leave it, pull the needle out when you're a little bit away, so that then when you go ahead and bury this, and I want to make sure I didn't come through my back, and I didn't, that knot gets pulled in so that you can no longer see it. Pull up, cut your thread, and just run your fingernail across that. And just like that, I mean, we haven't even been at this 20 minutes, and we've already got all of that completed. Now I'm finished with this, so I'm just going to take it off. I'll be able to use that again. So I just put it up on my sewing machine somewhere. And what we're going to be doing next, you have several options. You can, if you have the circles on quilts, you can use that. I found that my simple template, that's the very first template I got, the straight edge arc, was the easiest to use. So what I'm going to show you will make this super, super simple. And I want you to be able to see it real easily. So on this template, I'm going to put it right up here. You're going to come to the edge where the last line is, and you're going to put an arrow there. You're going to do the same thing on this side. And what makes this so easy is if you use this line coming out the middle, and you take that center line that's coming out, and when this arrow touches that spot, this arrow, when it's lined up, will touch that spot. So in other words, the outer edge of your log cabin. Center on the center, end on the end. And we are going to stitch the whole line. So what I like to do to make this easy is once you've got this lined up, just draw a little line out here so you'll know where to start and stop. Okay? I'm going to do this all 4 times so you'll get the hang of it. So right now, when I set that foot down, it needs to go in that line. Needle up, pull out, and put it right back down in that spot. Okay? Now I'm going to stitch around this arc till I get to that line. And I'm going to stop. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my needle, pull up my foot, and I'm going to come back and pull that thread through. I missed it there, so let's get it right there to pull that thread up. Now, I'm not taking the time to tie these right now, but you can see how easy that was to get that arc the same size on both sides there. So let's go over here. Remembering that we're using our center here, we're coming right down that diagonal. And when the point is touching, you can see it's there. This is lined up and that's there. Take something that will mark off or wipe off and just draw the line that extends right off of the edge of your ruler, because that's where you want to start and stop. Needle down, needle up, pull up that thread. And you may just decide, I don't want to mess with pulling all these threads and tying all these threads. I would encourage you to at least pull it up at the beginning. And here's what you can do. Once you pulled it up and you put your needle back down, go a few stitches forward and a few stitches back. And those threads will be secure. And you can do the same thing at this end, except I'm just going to stitch back. And then I'm going to lift this up. And I will be able to go to the back and cut that thread off. And you can see how much work that eliminates. Okay, my threads are secure. They're looking good. On this one down here, I do need to come to the back and just clip that off. I like to do things the easy way. I'm going to show you both ways, but I do like to do them the easy way. So now again, we're coming on this 45. Let me get it so you can see the whole thing. We're coming on that 45. And when our blue arrow touches the edge of our log cabin block, we're going to go to both ends and mark. Now I'm going to hold that right there, and if you've got your phone with you or you want to take a quick pic of that so that you'll have it, that way you can reference that, because that's not going to be in your instructions. So I'm just going to hold that right there if you want to take a quick pic of the TV or the position of that. So I'm going to come in here, needle down, needle up. I am going to pull up that first thread. Put that foot back down. I'm going to go a few stitches forward and a few stitches back. You'll notice I did not use the auto cutter. I'm just cutting them myself. That way they're left a little bit longer. Come to the back. We've got one more here to do. So line up that center line, come forward till it touches, that arrow touches. Draw a line, draw a line. Few stitches forward, few stitches back. Oops, wrong one down. All right. So just that quickly, we have gotten all of 4 of those drawn. Okay. Now these I've got to secure, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. I think you'll probably choose the second way I did it just because it takes a whole lot less time. And it really doesn't look a whole lot different in this particular case. Let's come down here and get this one done. Once you get onto this, it's really quick and easy. But those side threading needles make a huge difference in the speed of what you're doing. Just don't forget to give it that little extra pull and it's gone. All right. Now the next one that we're going to do, I'm going to do it a little bit differently than they do. We are going to be doing little pebbles. 1/2-inch pebbles. And in the instructions, it shows you a place to start and a place to finish. I can never get those even. So I start in the middle on this first row and go that direction. And then I come back and go this direction. Now the next row is pretty simple because you're stacking it on what's already stitched. Now let me bring back mine that's finished so that you can see I did an extra one here because I felt like that corner just needed one. So I started here in the center and did 4 this way and 4 that way. And then came back and stacked these and this one. So if you can see, the easiest way to do this is to pretty much put this one right in the corner of that log cabin piece. It just makes it simple. So you don't have to do all of this figuring and whatever. So in the case of this one, it would go right here in the center of that log cabin piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my little circle. Some of you may have the actual between the lines templates. And if you do, you can certainly use those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and put it right in that corner. I'm going to pull that thread up. And on this one, you're definitely going to be stitching over them again. So you're really not going to have to do any tying. You're just going to want to make sure you stitch over it. So foot down, needle down, and right back here, you've got a line that you're going to put right on that diagonal that comes from the center. So I'm going to put this up against it, right at that diagonal. I'm going to go ahead and stitch my circle, and I'm going to stop on this side. You'll notice over on this side, there is a circle, half circle. You put that over against that, and it's in the right place. We are kind of coming around an arc, so you're going to kind of tweak it just a smidge. I don't care which way you go. Move it over. I am putting, I'll show you on the next one. Come to that. Don't get carried away because we're only doing 4 of these. So this is the last one. And I'm coming back to here, which means I went around twice on all of it. And I'm just going to come back a little bit. And on this one, I'm just going to go ahead and use my cutter and bring that out here. So I can cut off the beginning, and the end is actually on the back. So I'm going to go to the back. You can do this at the end, but I'm just going to go ahead and go to the back and cut that off. Now, as I was moving to keep this space even, I am lining the top of my opening with that line. So rather than doing this and coming straight out, I am actually kind of turning it each time so that this lines up with that line. So I'm going to show you. We got to go the other direction. So I'm going to use this upside down so that I can line these up. So at this point, I'm right there. When I get to that next circle, I'll be right there, and I'm turning it each time. So now that I've turned this over and I've lined it up, and that's lined up, I'm going to bring this in, and I'm going to put my needle in the side of that circle. So right there is where my needle is going to go. And just because I don't want any parties happening on the back, I'm going to pull that thread up. Needle back down. Circle, semicircle there. And that's lined up there. So again, doesn't matter which way I go, it's going to be a circle and a half, circle and a half. Pull this forward, line that up, look to the back to see that that little semicircle is lined up. Circle and a half. Move forward, line up right up there, look to the back. And I think I've got one more to go. Yep. Pull forward, line up right at the back. There we go. Yep. Do 2 of these and then back just a bit and cut that thread. So just that easy, we were able to keep a nice arc going. Get the circles side by side and spaced evenly here rather than just guessing. Now, if you wanted to measure out on the next one so you could go the whole long line, you have at it. That's not exactly what I can do. Now, the next row I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they are stacked on top of this. So it's going to start right here, and they actually touch. So I'm going to go this way this time so that that little semicircle is right on top. And you can see a little line that really didn't matter the first time, but it will this time. So now that I've got that semicircle lined up, we're going to start at that arrow. Pull up our thread. Put our needle back down and our foot back down. There we go. I want to keep this to the back and out of my way. There we go. That was off. So now we're coming around. The first one will be 2. We're scooshing this up, lining it up right there. 1.5. I can get in here and cut this out of my way so I don't have to deal with it. Move to the next one, line up on that one. We're going to go this way this time. This is the last one. So I'm going twice and back and cut my thread. So you can see they touch just perfect because I used that little semicircle to line up. Now we're going to do one more in that corner because I just thought it looked good. You don't have to. So we're lining up there. Needle down, needle up. Oops. And one circle. There we go. So that's how that will end up. And I think I'll just do one more corner just so that you have it and understand how it's done. I know you could always go back and watch this again. So let's come down here to this one. Remembering that we are, in this case, going this way, I'm going to set that edge of the opening right on there. This line is actually on that line. We are doing the middle one here, and then 4 on each side. All right, here we go. I didn't start there, but it'll work. I started in the corner, but that's okay. This will work. Messed it up to start with, girls. Thank goodness for the old seam ripper. So let's just get those few stitches out of there. If you have any questions, you can post them. Stacy's going to relay them to me. There we go. So I'm going to get my circle again. We're going to come in and go right in that corner this time. Pull that thread up. Put that needle back down right in that spot, and then we'll line up. So we're going to get lined up there. I'm going to move to the side. Remembering that I'm lining up the top of that circle with the line that's the arc. And we got one more. Okay. I got an extra stitch there, but guess what, guys? I'm not worried about it. So we're going to come right there. Put that needle down. Go this way, because I want to line up behind here. Here we go. So I'm lining up right there and right there. Needle down.
Hey, Donelle, we just had a good question come in.
Yes.
Someone was wondering which template you're using for this.
Well, this is the one that came in the box, and it is the Spinning Wheel 7. And it has the design I did earlier, plus it has this little between the lines already on it.
A little bonus. You can use a between the lines template if you do not have this template that came in the club box. So that was kind of an alternative. Our goal with the club box was to just give you templates that could kind of maximize the designs that we were highlighting. So we modified this to include between the line.
Right. And the cool part is obviously this is kind of wasted space. So it's nice to have an extra little template there. So, all right, we got that line done. And we're now going to do the next one. I'll only do these two corners. And this one, remember, we can start on top and go the whole 5 of those across there. So I am going to be going like this so that that little arc that's already on there is lined up. Foot down, needle down, up. Pull up that bobbin thread. I'm sure someone will figure out, and I could probably do it pretty quick myself, how you could do all of these without stopping. But you know what? I'm doing fine just like I am here. So we're going to come around. We're going to stop on the side here. We're going to move up so that's lined up. I don't care, left or right. Stop on the side. And this is where you probably could figure out how to do both of these here in the center. So in other words, you could then come up here. Let's just do it. Stopping here, we're coming back down, and we're only going to traffic a quarter of a distance. Travel. I said traffic, but it works, I guess. And then this is the last one. So that was pretty easy to get that in there and have it stacked. So there we are. We've got 2 corners done just like that. So now what the next step on this would be, if you're going to do it like I did it, you would finish this obviously first. But you are then going to cut out this direction, not your backing, just the top and the batting, which the top will not get cut. But you're going to measure out 1.5 inches. And if it's not still that, you're going to trim it. Mine happens to be. And then you're going to trim this 2 inches. So I'm just going to mark it on 2 sides so you can get the hang of this. I find when you're using fleece, everything stays like it's supposed to. So from here to here is 1.5 inches, and you can see it is. And then from there, you're going to measure out 2 inches. Now, this is if you're doing it like I did it, which is where I bring the back to the front. And I'm going to show you one corner of this. Okay, so when I laid all this down, I got my measuring so that I didn't have to deal with that. I made it so it was exact to begin with. And the best way to do that, you guys, is to just work on your cutting board that has lines and markings on it. Normally, I would not be doing this with scissors. I'm just doing it to make it easy here to show you one corner. Now I'm going to use the tool that I actually designed to do the mitered corners. So the way that tool is used is we are actually coming out to this fleece, and I will be, you would do all 4 corners at the same time. And after you've done that, this will get turned. Actually, you can do this part that I'm doing first. And you can see this turns up and makes your binding. So you would be following the directions in the tool where you bring this up and press it, bring this up and press it, do it all the way around. And then you mark this line, which becomes your stitching line. And so once you turn this, you will stitch on half of this line. Then this gets cut off so that when you turn it, you get that perfect mitered corner. Now you don't have to do it that way. You can do add-on binding. You can do whatever you want. I like to do this because I like to be able to have that all finished with that nice miter. Now, whatever you finish this off as I told you, mine is 14.5. Whatever you finish that as is the size that you're going to work towards to make the bag that I'm going to get ready to show you now. Because this is going to be the front part of the bag, and we are going to now make the back part of the bag. So let me get those supplies. So again, I have a backing that is a 20-inch square, cut perfect to the 20-inch. I have cut a piece of clear vinyl, which obviously you're not going to be able to see, that is 14.5 inches. So what I'm doing is I will be creating a front and you have to make sure this is a perfect 14.5 inches. Now, a little bit of this is going to be kind of hard to see just because of the fact that you don't have the ability to see the vinyl. But I'm going to lay this straight on a line here. And I am going to measure 2 inches. Actually, I can do that right here using my, another great use for your, I'm going to lay that right on a line here. And I have cut 2 pieces 5 inches wide, and I just cut them 16 inches long so that they would be longer. And I folded them in half. Okay, so I've got 2 of those pieces that now measure 2.5 when they're folded in half. And I also have one that was cut 3 inches wide. So when it's in half, it is 1.5. I have one of the extra wide zippers. Mine happens to have 2 zipper pulls. That's perfectly fine. Doesn't really matter. And I am going to put the zipper on first. So the zipper is actually going to go on.
Donelle, quick question. Someone just asked if we can show that being done.
What being done?
The
The binding?
Yeah, it just came in 3 minutes ago. So yeah,
Okay.
I guess it is.
Here, I'll back up. No problem. Just get this out of the way. I'll go over to my iron and I'll be right back.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. While Donna's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and post a link. So she is currently working on the Log Cabin Class Kit 4D. So all of our Elevate Club members out there, this is coming in your box, or you've already received your box, hopefully. And this is going to allow you to not only have an awesome class with Donelle where she's teaching you how to create that beautiful quilt design, but she's also teaching you how to create that gorgeous bag that she's working on right now. And I love that she's using the vinyl because I think that, any great project bag you want to be able to see into and work from. So I'm going to go ahead and post a link to the class kit right now. And she's definitely loving the idea of seeing the miter corner, Donelle.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if you're not a club member, the class kit is called the Log Cabin Class Kit 4D, and that is one of the 4 designs that were created by Donna McCauley to be able to create different designs for different quilt types. So we're going to be going ahead and going through several of those design and panel options. But this one's special because it was included in the box. Not all of them are included in the box. So this is allowing you to go ahead and get that, not just the written education that comes in a box, but the video-based education as well. All right, so Donelle will be back any second. While she's doing that, I wanted to make sure that you're all aware that we do have a really fun opportunity for you to get inspired with all these log cabin projects and join us in our log cabin quilting challenge. This is happening throughout the quarter. So all of the log cabin inspired projects that we're doing this quarter, you have to have created one of them, guys. And we would love for you to submit your log cabin into our log cabin quilting challenge. So I'm going to go ahead and post a link to that. We're going to be picking a winner towards the middle to end of March for that.
All right, I'm back.
All right. Thanks, Donelle.
Yep. So I'm changing the foot. I'm going to go to just a regular straight stitch. And it really doesn't matter. You're stitching on a line, so it's not like you're trying to get a 1/4 of an inch or anything like that. So I'm just going to put my foot back on, the regular one. This is my Quick Easy Miter binding tool. I've pressed the ends, or excuse me, the edges, and I'm just taking my tool, and then where it intersects, and this is all in pictures in the tool, where it intersects, it will allow you to then draw that line so that you can know where you're stitching. So watch again. Corner of my outer edge, because that was already determined. Draw that line. Where it intersects, draw the line. And then I would do that on all 4 corners. But then I'm going to turn this back and fold this. I'm going to use a straight pin to go right through that spot. And if I picked a good one, oh, I didn't. Look how far off it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that off and put it on there so that it's going to lay nice and flat. So I'm pulling that down and coming back out. Now I am going to stitch this right on that line. But I stop at the pen. So I'm going to stitch forward a few, back to the fold, back to the pen, and then reverse. I did not sew over my pen. So now when I cut this off, I'm going to cut to a little point here. And I'm going to turn that through. And now I have a perfect miter. So it's ready. I mean, you would do all four.
All right, there's a slight pause right now. I'm pretty sure Donelle's just maybe got a little interruption, but she'll be back in just a moment.
How quickly can you lose a straight? Okay. There we go. I'm going to reverse back to that spot. One more stitch. Forward and reverse. Cut that 1/4 of an inch, cut the tip off. And then you can use a point turner. Sometimes your finger is just as good. And then that's just ready to lay nice and flat for your corner. So you can see how easy that is to do. So that's totally finished. That's what I did on this one. 14.5 inch square. And now we're going to do the bag part. Okay? Hopefully that answered that question. And that's okay because I needed to change back to this foot anyway. So now what I'm going to do is I'm laying this just on my straight edge line here, and it will cling right to my mat. Okay. Now what I need to do first is stitch my zipper on. Okay. And I want that zipper in a position that is going to come right underneath when I stitch this on top. So this being 2.5 inch finished is going to be right like that. And so I want that so it's going to catch my zipper. Now, remember, we're not zippering for 4H. We are zippering for decorative. I might have picked a blue zipper or a purple zipper or a pink zipper. It just so happens the one I had handy was orange, so it works. So I need that to be right here. So what I'm going to do is I can see that that's 1/4 of an inch. So I am going to be using some tape to hold that in place. I'm not going to stitch through that tape, but I'm going to hold it in place while I stitch. So when I get to the tape, I'll take it off. I'm going to use about 5 pieces. So that's at 1/4 of an inch. Now here, right there where my finger is the end. I want this out past that. So I'm going to put that right across like that and hold that in place. I'm going to come up here, keeping this straight. Oh dear, I picked it up. Get this off of here so I don't pick it up each time. So I want 1/4 of an inch. Pull it towards me so I can continue on working. It's right along that line. Check to make sure it still is. All right. Now we're going to be sewing on both sides of that zipper. So I'm going to put this you know what I forgot. Hang on. You're going to need some paper underneath here to be able to stitch. I got another sheet when I get down there. This end down here, I'm just going to roll up. And I'm going to start off of the end and put my foot down. And I want a little larger stitch, so I'm going to go up to 3. All right, go ahead and cut that. And just because I've not cut my zipper off yet, I'm just going to pull all of these out of the way and come back down the other side. All right. So now we have that zipper. We don't have an opening yet. That doesn't matter, but we have the zipper. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to take one of those 2.5 inch folded in half. They were 5. And I'm going to lay that so it lines right up with the top edge up here. and stitch that in place. Yes, you could use a decorative stitch if you wanted. Lining up with the edge here. Got a little bit off here because I can't see behind my camera. So let me take this real quick and fix it. And then the one that is only 1.5 inches, we're going to do a little bit different. We're going to give it a fold so that it doesn't have a raw edge showing. You can use, I know some people use tissue paper. I think just using copy paper works just as well. The reason this is a little bit more difficult to get out is because we are trying to pull it out of the paper. But most machines have no problem sewing through this stuff if you just put some paper behind it and go from that. Now you do notice that it leaves holes here, but that's not going to matter because we're covering that up with our fabric. Guess I got off a little farther back than I thought. So here we go. Come on. There we go. All right. Now on this side, we're going to use the smaller piece. Extend it out a little bit. And I'm actually going to just guide right along this edge. Oh, I see now what it did. It went down that hump. I should have pulled my zipper off farther. There we go. These are the raw edges. And then just because it's easier for me to do it this way, I'm going to start back up at the top again. And this is going to get folded down. And we're going to stitch right along this. And then we'll stitch the opposite side. Let's see, how far do I want to go? I think I'm going to go ahead and move my needle. All right. All right, got that. So we've got this top part made. We've got to slice open our fabric first, but we're going to do the same thing. I put a piece down here. So I'm going to go ahead and tear off this top part so I can use it down there. And I have, again, 2 raw edges here and a 2.5 inch finish. It's 5 inches before it's folded, so that we have a piece down here at the bottom. So let's come over here, get right to the edge. Again, it was like 16 inches. Now, anything that's touching is going to cling. So you want to lift that up and guide both things at the same time. And I'm lining this up with the edge of the vinyl. Okay. Now, I will take all of this off of the back. Actually, I'm going to stitch the bottom of that down first before I take it off. So let's lay this on here and just stitch across this bottom. Whoops. I think that'll get covered up in my border or my binding. Now remember, you're not going to go taking an iron to this. We're going to peel all of this out. And then we're going to put the zipper in the center, the zipper pulls, and we're going to cut off all those extra edges that hung out. Once you get one side off, the other usually comes off pretty easily. I'm not going to be too picky today to take your time because I can always go back and take that off. So what I was talking about is bringing these zipper pulls into the middle here because we're going to end up, in fact, I'll do that right now, stitching across the bottom here or the side here to secure that zipper. And you can stitch to reverse there. And then you're going to do this end also. I'm going to do this a couple of times. Now what I'm going to do is go square this up and I'll be right back. Okay, so when I squared up the one side, I hadn't caught my zipper. So let's get this stitched. And then we'll finish ripping this out. And we're going to cut a slit in behind our zipper. It's a whole lot easier to do all of this and then cut the slit for the zipper than it is to try and deal with two pieces of vinyl, figuring out how in the world am I going to hold this in place and keep it even when you really can't even do that. So now right down the center of that is my zipper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a straight edge and it doesn't take any real fancy scissors or anything like that. You're probably going to start it with your seam ripper. And you may even want to just work it down there with the seam ripper. It seems to be doing well. I'm going to take my paper out. Like I said, I'll come back and get the little pieces later. And then you can take your scissors and cut up closer to your stitching to open up that space. Wow, there we go. So then you can just cut in here and your scissors will just cut right up against. I wouldn't go right beside my stitching. Let's get this so you can see it. But we're cutting off that plastic. Don't use your sewing scissors. You can see I'm using a little inexpensive pair of scissors because that vinyl is pretty rough on your sewing scissors. So from the front, you can see we've got our opening here now, whether you want it double or single like that. And then what I'm going to do is take my other piece this is my 20-inch square. I'm going to lay this on top, get it all centered. And we're going to do the same thing that we did before with our mitering. So you are going to have, you're going to lay this down, get it in the center there. Now it's okay to put some pins through this because the vinyl behind it is not going to show up. Make sure I've got this. Let's go back to our first piece so you can see where I'm headed. Yep, this is the same size. So wrong side up. Center this on that 20-inch square. And you're going to do that same mitering. And then all you need to do is put these two back to back and stitch around the edge to hold them together. So in other words, let's see if we can just do two sides of this real quick. Looks like I need to trim just a little bit off of this top part. Yep, it's about 15. Hang on, guys. Okay, so I got that centered there. I would go ahead and, just to make it easier on yourself, stitch this down. And I would do that all the way around. But then what you're going to be doing is pressing this up, pressing this in, taking that miter binding tool, doing those corners so that on this side it will be right side out. Obviously this will be turned up, and then you're going to lay down your wrong side of your finished one, and this one's going to be right side up, and they're going to match up because we cut it 14.5 inches, and this will be stitched together just close to this outside edge. And that way you will have both of these pieces finished with the edging so that you can just stitch this together, and now you have your pocket that you can open up and store things inside. So I hope that makes sense. The whole idea is you're working with vinyl, so you got a couple extra steps there. Obviously I'm going to be pulling these out before I finish it up, but just to reiterate what we did, the backing is a 20-inch square. That's what we just added on. These two pieces are 5-inch strips that were folded in half right side out. And this is a 3-inch strip that was folded in half, stitched this way, and then flipped down. So I hope that, and the vinyl is 14.5-inch square. And the whole idea is you have to start with something. And that vinyl, as you saw there, I had to cut just a smidge off. It wasn't even 1/8 of an inch, but it kind of can grow a little bit when you're stitching pieces onto it. So thanks for joining me. I look forward to seeing those finished project bags. And as soon as I finish mine, I'll post a picture of it so that you can see it. And I hope you enjoy those 2 new templates, and one you've probably already used, so that you can also finish your log cabin. So thanks, Stacy. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.